Hi friends, I'm Amy and this is A-Star Reads, and it's time for an October sum up, which is a little different than a Sunday sum up, but not much. It's just that I have not been doing weekly vlogs, and this is going to include pretty much everything that I completed in October, maybe some things that I completed in September, yeah. And the reviews for the books that my mom completed with her Spookoplathon October TBR, as well as my cousin Jordan. So you'll get a chance to hear about a whole bunch of books from us in this vlog. I'm hoping to have a little bit of B-roll. It was not the best month for taking B-roll. It's been a busy month, like really good. I'm almost completely teaching my students for the full day. This next week I'm taking on one more lesson type, and so it'll be pretty much me teaching almost everything all day long, and it's been going great. It's been going really great. Some days are great, some days are not so great, but that's true anytime. Next week is Halloween. I'm really nervous about that because children excited about Halloween are difficult to deal with. Children who are hyped up on a lot of candy are difficult to deal with. So next week is probably going to be a rough week, and I don't know what to expect. And then it's also just been a really fast month. November's here, or practically here. I don't know how that happened because I could have swore we just put out our October TBR. I know it was a little late, but it just doesn't seem, it seems a bit ridiculous. I'm just like, no, this isn't right. And I wanted to do a lot more Halloween type things. And we did do some, and it was a lot of fun, but not nearly as much as we had hoped we would. So first things first, I want to tell you about Thief of Sorrows by Kristen Long, which is the audiobook that I listened to for Seasonathon in September because it was the group book, and I don't think I ever actually reviewed it. So we did the live show discussion, which I wasn't there for because I ended up getting the flu. That's what happened. I didn't do much at the end of September because I ended up getting the flu. And now I want to come back and tell you what I thought about this book and let you know that I think I want to continue this series. I gave this particular book 3.5 stars. And although there were things about it that I wasn't absolutely crazy about, it is a debut novel, and I can see where this story will broaden, and I have a feeling that I could really grow to love this series as it goes along in the future, or at least I'm willing to give it a try. This book, Thief of Sorrows, is a dark fantasy about Robin Hood. It's a retelling of Robin Hood, and Isolde is our main character. She is the Hood. She is also a noble who is supposed to inherit her aunt and uncle's estate, which she doesn't want to do because she wants to keep doing her work as the Hood. And they live in a world where Isolde, as well as the other people who are part of this Robin Hood group, and a lot of the nobles, are magical people called the Virias, and they are able to shapeshift. They have so much power. They can do a lot of damage, and this has meant that a lot of people in power have abused that power by subjugating and making humans enslaved, because there are humans that have no magic. They are really vulnerable to these Virias. So Isolde and a couple other nobles, a couple other Viria, really think this is horrible that the humans are so taken advantage of. So they steal from the lords, the different Viria that have raised taxes, have caused all kinds of problems, have mistreated their human servants or human employees, and then enslave people once they weren't able to pay their taxes and stuff like that. They take that money and they give it to the humans that they have rescued, released from enslavement. And going into this series, I had no clue how dark it was going to be. The themes are dark, and you can imagine they would be when enslavement is involved. The darkness was really leaned into. Kristen Long went for it. And there were times where I was like, whoa, that was pretty graphic, and I didn't expect it. And so if I had gone into this knowing it was going to be that dark, I wouldn't have been surprised. But I do want you to look up trigger warnings before you go into this, because it does get pretty dark at times. And I didn't dislike this. It was just a bit of a shock. I didn't expect that. Also, in this book, the level of detail, not only for describing the people, describing the location, but also describing the scenes, like what is happening in each scene, made it so that the pacing was off a bit. I felt like the pacing was pretty slow, and so if you're a person who really doesn't like a slow-paced book, then it would be a struggle to get through this one. I didn't mind that completely because I felt like I really had a clear picture of who these characters were, what the storyline was, but I did want more action, or at least things to start happening at a quicker pace. And there were a lot of times when dialogues ended up taking longer than I expected them to because we were getting explanations about this is how the person looked, this is what they were thinking, this is what they were doing. There was a lot of detail when it came to that. And so that's something to think about when you go into this. The audiobook of this was fantastic. I loved the narrator. I loved everything about the audiobook. I'm not one who loves audiobooks very often, and I usually get pulled out of it because I don't know, I get distracted easily. I only listen to audiobooks when I'm driving, or mostly only when I'm driving, because I get distracted so easily. Even then, often I start thinking about something, I get distracted, have to rewind. This was one where I didn't have to. I was pulled in all the time when I was listening to it, which was a real positive aspect of this because the pacing was slower. So I really enjoyed the audiobook. I highly recommend, if you're reading this series, to listen to the audiobook. And there are going to be a lot more books in this series. I think there's like 8 books, so it's going to be a long series. As long as you don't mind a book that is slower paced, I think that you'll enjoy this series. And I do recommend checking it out because I think there is potential here. I just know that it is going to get darker. It's going to get even darker. So just keep that in mind. Oh, and before I forget, if you would like to see the live show discussion that I was supposed to be on, but I was in the comment section down below, so I did get to ask some of the questions of the author that I wanted to ask her. If you'd like to see that, I will link it up here. This was on Completely Melanie's channel for her Readathon Season-a-thon Academy.
I completed my first book for Spookopathon. I read my best friend's Exorcism. I gave it a 4. Amy had already read it and I'd heard her review. So I knew it wasn't terribly frightening. And right here at the beginning of the month, I wanted something that was fun to read, but not terribly frightening, because I've got a couple of those in my pile. I really enjoyed the book. I felt like the writer kept my interest. I liked hearing about these 2 girls and all the horrible things that they went through. I was kind of surprised of the kind of things they tried. I'm a goody two-shoes. So when they tried drugs and different types of things, I'm like, oh, yeah, I wouldn't have done that. But it was a fun read.
Just a quick review of all the books I didn't get to. My first roll was orange on the cover, and I chose The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. I did not get to it, and that is all. My second roll was spooky, and I chose The Horror in the Museum by H.P. Lovecraft. I feel bad for the granddaddy of horror. From what I did read, it was not horrifying to me. Also, did not finish. And my third roll was Daphne Demure, and we chose Rebecca, which I have made it 80 pages in. So, wonderful so far, especially if you love to read descriptions. To read all of the description, everything. If you love it, whew, that's a book for you. I'm still reading it.
I told you you didn't have to.
I know, but one day, maybe in 100 years, I will finish. But I'll finish it.
Dramatic. Okay, so for Suffer-a-thon, I picked up Survive the Night by Riley Sager. This was for Aaron's prompt, the 4th and final prompt. And it was a book that has gotten rant reviews, or people absolutely hated it for whatever reason. And I see why. I see why. I'm surprised because I figured, I really have loved everything from Riley Sager, so I am probably going to feel different than what everybody else felt, because of all the other Riley Sagers I've read so far, I've given them all, I think, at least a 4-star, and then within the 4-star range. And so I thought, I'll probably be unlike everyone because I just like what Riley Sager does. And then I read this book. So I'm giving it a 2.75 stars. I think it redeemed itself a little bit here and there because of the twists that Riley Sager is known for. Like, he has a very formulaic way of writing thrillers, and typically I like that formula. In this case, I don't know what the deal is, but I was not a fan. It felt like the whole book was rushed. It didn't feel like it was written to the same level of writing that Riley Sager typically does. Like, I felt like the writing was almost by a different author. Not completely, but it felt like a book you're trying to write really quickly to get a book out. And I just didn't find the topic interesting at all. I kind of wonder if I'm not a fan of thrillers set in cars or road trips and stuff, because I didn't really like No Exit by Taylor Adams either. And these stories just kind of feel uninteresting to me or boring. I guessed a lot of it. A couple of the twists did surprise me, and that was nice. And it didn't necessarily completely end out the way that I thought it was going to, although it mostly did. My intrigue didn't last from twist to twist, whereas in his other books, one intrigue made me like, oh, what's going to happen next? And the story gets completely flip-flopped. And it did get completely flip-flopped in this, but in a way that felt a lot more predictable. So sadly, I can say that this is a Riley Sager that did not work for me. And I know that it did work for some people. Like, the overwhelming majority, people weren't as crazy about this one as they were with his other books. And there were quite a few rant reviews that I had seen about this one. But I do know some people who really did love this one. And so it's going to be for some people. It's going to work for some people. It wasn't for me. And I have to accept that maybe thrillers set on road trips or on the road like this are not going to be for me. And so I might try a couple more just to see, like, is that true, or was it just No Exit and Survive the Night? Okay, so it may be off key, but that's just because I haven't learned how to tune it yet, and they tune it for us during our lessons, so bear with me. Okay. Another one of my dahlias is finally opening. And that one is too. This one will soon. And here's another color I have. Hasn't opened all the way yet, but look at that. That's really cool. That one's pretty. And then we still have quite a few of these ones opening. Okay, so the lighting is a bit wonky, but what I ended up last, sorry, I'm congested, so if I sound funky, that's oldest published on TBR, that's where I was. And so I'm gonna see how far I go with my next spin. Let's see. 2, not too far. Okay, 1, 2, and this is a diversity spin. So that'll be great. Let's see what I end up getting. I'm gonna spin the wheel again. Ooh, light green is U.S. person of color representation. Okay, so that actually works out perfectly because I got diversity spinner wheel and it was U.S. person of color representation. So that's either the author or the main character. And in this instance, it's both. We've got our author, Claribel Ortega, who is a Dominican-American living in New York. And then our two main characters, Lucely and Sid. I'm pretty sure Lucely is also Dominican-American. And they live in Florida. So I had started this. I got to page 26, not very far. But then I got busy reading Failsafe because I wanted to get that one done. So I haven't actually gotten back to any of my Spookopoly TBR books for October yet. Like, this is the only one I've technically started and I haven't continued it. So this gives me a great reason to focus on this. So I'll be reading this now that I'm done with Failsafe, and I've started The Mask Falling by Samantha Shannon because I have to get that done before the 27th. That's the book for the bookStara read-alongs.
For roll number 5 on Spookopoly, you know what it is. I got Community Shelf. So for Community Shelf, Amy and I counted all the squares on the Monopoly board, did a random number generator, and I ended up on this square called Hannibal Lecter. And the requirement for that was a book that has a body part on the cover. I ended up picking Headhunter. There is a body part on the cover. Pretty scary. Amy got this book from a friend of hers that recommended it and said it was really scary. So I think she was supposed to read it last October. But I decided, yeah, I'll read it this October. It had some trigger warnings. So there's some child abuse, there's other kind of abuse, and so read the trigger warnings before you go into this book. The other problem I had with it, it has 3 timelines. It started out in 1889, went to 1988 or something. It popped back and forth between those 2 years, and then about halfway through the book, it popped back into 1954. So we got 3 timelines going on, and I don't do that really well with timelines. I got a little confused with that, but I do like mysteries. And this definitely, after I got past some of the mixed media they had at the beginning of the story, I started getting into it. I think the writer did a good job writing it. I gave it a 3.25. I enjoyed it. I do like murder mysteries. This is a serial killer murder mystery. The killings, they didn't describe it enough so you felt it was ugly, gory. Or maybe I skipped over it, who knows? I think I missed a lot, and I think I'm gonna have to read it again. There were some names at the very end of the story, and I'm thinking, I don't recognize those, and I was flipping back and I saw that name and I go, oh shoot, I didn't even remember them. So this is probably gonna have to be a reread for me to decide how I really feel about it. I guess 3.25 tells you how I feel about it right now. Who knows, I might read it again and have a different number there.
No.
So my roll number 4 was supposed to have something with a broken mirror on the cover. Broken mirror. And I chose The Mirrorwood by Deva Fagan. And I have to say, read this book. Read this book. Just do it. Read this book. It's absolutely fantastic. It took me a day. Granted, I wasn't working and I was on a 2-hour plane flight, so maybe that had something to do with it. But read this book. It's beautiful. It talks about finding yourself. It has this undertone of wanting to be you, wanting to be yourself. It is a beautiful story. And the ending was such a twist. I loved it. Fantastic read.
What rating would you give it?
Oh, I'm an easy rater for now, until I figure out how to rate books, because to be honest, I love this book. It's a 5-star, along with the rest of my books. So 5 out of 5 stars.
Okay, so I want to give a review for Ghost Squad by Claribel Ortega. And this one, I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. I've been finding my middle grades a little lackluster lately. Actually, that's not true. I've been finding that either I really love the books that I've been reading that are middle grade, like the Graveyard book, or I am just not enjoying them as much. And it's not middle grade in general, it's just the ones that I've been picking up, it seems. And so I picked this up because I thought it would be a really cute, really fun idea. And it was cute. It gave me the spoopy vibes, which was the prompt that I picked it for. It had the ingredients, all the ingredients that would need to be there for me to really enjoy this one, because it has a lot of the same themes that Coco, the Disney movie, has. And I love Coco. In fact, Miguel is one of my favorite Disney characters. I just think he's the cutest little thing ever. And this had those things. It had really cute characters. It had fun side characters. Babette, this girl's grandmother, was so quirky, so fun. I liked what she added to the story. Their relationship, the dialogue at times wasn't my favorite, but I thought that they were sweet. The cats in this were so fun. Like, there were so many elements to this that I thought should have worked out really well, but for some reason it didn't hit right for me. I felt like I had to force myself to pick it up and read it. I don't want to say it dragged, but it kind of did, because I felt like we did a lot of kind of running around in circles, and it took a while for the plot to really unfold. And so there is that element of Coco where she has the ability to see her relatives, her ancestors, and they actually live with them. Where in Coco, Miguel only has it as temporarily. She has the ability to see her relatives all the time. But that same feel is there. And then, of course, they do something that makes it so that they have to save the day and save their city, their little town. That familiar relationship I love to see was also in this, and I did enjoy that, but I didn't end up enjoying this book as much as I wanted to. I don't know if it's the writing. I didn't think there was anything wrong with the writing. There wasn't any point when I was like, oh, the writing is not good. It was more just that everything seemed to take a while to come together, and I wasn't in a rush to pick it up and continue reading it every time that I set it down. So that's a bit of a bummer, but there were so many good elements to this, and I can see this being a great read for many people, including children, because it's scary in the way that middle grade can be, but never too scary, never something that, well, I didn't think it was too scary. I could see there being moments in this that might be really scary for a child. Still an enjoyable read, and I'm glad I got to read it. I do recommend this because a lot of people love it, and it is one that is going to work for people even if it didn't work for me. Well, quite. Oh, you know, a little bit. Getting there. Even more difficult. Let's try this little monster. Okay. No. Okay, let's try it again. Not quite the prodigy that I had hoped for quite yet, but you know, there's time. Okay, so I've got a bit of a different setup because we had a bit of a disaster with our dryer dying, and then everything is now covered with clothing. So I'm over here. The board is a little crooked, so hopefully it won't ruin the spins too much. When I ended off last time, I was on this diversity spinner wheel, and I'm going this direction. Let's see how far I'm gonna go for my next spin and see what my next book is gonna be. 9. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's nice. Heads or tails, +1 or -1, respin and move forward. So, how am I gonna make that work? Because +1 or -1, I'm doing this one book at a time, so adding +1's not gonna, but I am gonna respin and move forward. So I'll think about how I'm gonna do that heads or tails, +1 or -1, but in the meantime, let me respin and move forward. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Book card! Okay, let me get my book cards. Ah! Sorry if that's not the same as it was. Okay, so here's my book card bag. Let's see what I'm gonna get for my book card. This could take all the power out of my own hands. Okay. Oh, it's a Shell pick. Okay, well, I'm gonna have to send a message to Shell and see what she wants me to pick. Oh, this is dangerous because I have a lot of books I already want to read. Okay, I've changed my mind. This is how I'm gonna do it. Now, you saw that I was at this heads or tails, +1 or -1. I'm not gonna do that because I don't have a TBR game, TBR, so I can't add a book on it or subtract a book. But it said respin and move forward. So here's what I think I'm gonna do. If it's heads, I'm gonna do the book card and have Shell give me a recommendation, have her pick. If it's tails, well, I have to spin for that. Let's see what I get. This is spinning for tails. It's 10, which is typically secret TBR, but I think what I'm gonna do is actually move 10 spaces. Since we're doing this as like a different kind of spin, a special sort of spin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Over 600 pages. And that would be a YA other. So, heads, Shell gets to pick me a book. Tails, it's a book over 600 pages. YA other. I don't think this went very well for me. Okay, let me get a coin. Okay, see all the clothes that are laying all over everything? Yeah. Heads is smooth sailing. That means that Shell gets to pick a book for me. Rough Seas is indeed Rough Seas because that means that I get further along on the board, but I have to pick a book that's over 600 pages and is a YA other type of genre. Over 600 pages. Oh, everything is a disaster over there right now. I do need to read European Travel for the Monstrous Gentlewoman, and this is 708 pages. I need to read this. Okay, I want Tales. Vote for Tales. Vote for Tales. Put all your good energy into Tales. Because as much as I love Shell and would love to give her a choice, this will actually be a book that I need to read. Okay, please. Rough Seas, Rough Seas, Rough Seas. Here we go. Ow. That's a really hard coin. Smooth sailing. So, this would have been nice. Oh, it wouldn't have worked anyways because this is YA fantasy. It had to be YA other. Well, actually, these are mystery, right? Well, they're mystery fantasy, so I guess it wouldn't have worked. That's fine. I didn't want it to work anyways. Good. Shell's picking for me. Okay, well, I'll get in contact with Shell and see what book she wants me to read. Okay, well, Shell loves me right now. She loves me right now. She did a great job picking because she could have picked anything. She could have picked any length novel, but she was obviously thinking about what month we're in, and she's being very kind because she picked Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. Now, this is a book that I actually got for Mom as a gift a while ago. I think it was for Christmas, and it was wrapped up as a blind date with a book, but I knew what book it was based off reading the description. Mom had no idea. So I got this for her knowing that I would want to read it as well. And so I'm very excited because you know why this is even more perfect? This is a Latinx discussion about brujos and ghosts, so witches and ghosts, and that's exactly what I'm reading in this Dominican version of witches and ghosts. And so it's just kind of cool that my last TBR game book, The Ghost Squad by Claribel Ortega, has this Latinx perspective on witches and ghosts. And so does Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas, except that it's YA. So I think that's a perfect moving on from one to the other. This was a great choice, Shell. You have no idea how good of a choice this was.
For my second spin, I landed on Stephen King. And what's really fun about that is that Amy got a whole big sack full of Stephen King books just about a week or two before we did this roll. So I went through her sack of Stephen King books and I found The Eye of the Dragon. It's a classic fairy tale. And I was excited. I thought, oh, not too scary, but it'll have a dragon and maybe it'll have a little bit of, scare, but it's a fairy tale. It won't be that bad. I forgot about Grimm's fairy tales. This was a very grim fairy tale. The man that was advising the king was as evil as all get out. I was so angry at him most of the time I was reading this. I was going, oh, that guy's so evil and everything he's doing is wrong and everybody believes him and he's getting away with all this crap. So I actually put the book down for a while because I was just so sick of this evil, evil man that I couldn't read it anymore. So I waited about a week or so and then picked it back up and got halfway through where the hero starts going forward and things start getting better. So I gave the book 4.25 because Stephen King, I didn't even know he wrote fairy tales, and it really was a fun read to read something that he wrote that wasn't too scary. I mean, it was angry, but I wasn't scared. Really liked the book.
For my fifth roll, it was pumpkin spice. So something spicy for the holiday season. And we chose One Last Stop by Casey McCuiston. McCuiston. Oh yeah, Casey McCuiston. This book started with a really slow burn. It was, I want to say, 100 pages in where I finally got into the groove of reading it. I, being a sci-fi fantasy reader, have a really hard time getting into the normalcy of daily life, which this starts out with, and then it gets really good. And there is some pumpkin spice in there, some pumpkin spice. This is a queer love story between two females, so if that is something you enjoy like I do, Highly, highly recommend. You'll love the pumpkin spice once you get over the whole finding a job and making money and moving to a city, and you'll love it. You'll love it. I also gave this 5 stars, just like all the books I read, because if it's not 5 stars, I don't read it.
You don't know that until you've read it.
That's how I rate. So, one last stop. Great queer lesbian read. Highly, highly suggest you skip the first 100 pages. What? Just kidding. It's great all the way. Loved it. Fantastic.
My third dahlia is finally opening, and look how pretty that is. So pretty. So now I got the purples, the red, well, like a burgundy, almost red, and the white. Oh, and that one is, some of them are starting to lean. Cheese and candy tasting. So this is triple cream brie with Twix. This is manchego with Reese's. This is aged Gouda with toffee popcorn. This is candy corn and brie, and this is blue cheese and, no, this is Twix. That's Kit Kat. So brie and Kit Kat, blue cheese and Twix, and they're supposed to go really well together.
Am I supposed to squish this in brie?
Well, I don't know how you do it.
I think you're just supposed to eat them together, like in the same bite.
Yeah. Brie's good though.
What's it supposed to taste like? Oh my god!
What
It
is
does
it?
taste like a marshmallow.
It does. It even feels like a
Tastes like a marshmallow?
That's what I was thinking of.
Not too big about it.
So it does taste like a marshmallow?
Yeah, it tastes like
But it tastes like a marshmallow and it's the same texture.
Yeah.
Ooh.
And this is supposed to taste like buttery.
I guess it does even it out
Yeah,
at the very end.
because they have the buttery notes, the butterscotch notes.
Oh.
That is weird with the blue cheese.
Yeah, still weird.
Technical will be judged blind, so we're going to have to ask our judges to leave the tent.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
To make sure there's no cheating, they will be lowered into a medieval well.
Okay, so I want to show you a little haul that is actually not a book haul, but a bookmark haul. I have a group of girls in my class who are totally into making bookmarks right now. And so I got to be careful with these because I want to make sure their names aren't on them. Well, they are on them, but I'm going to cover their names. But here's one. It says read, and on the back, it has all these cute little animals, some penguins, some bunny rabbits, and a little dog there in the center. So that's one of them, the read one. I am actually teaching an explorers unit right now, so I've got 2 different explorers bookmarks from 2 different girls. And so here's, I'm gonna hide this one. So this one says, we love the earth. And what else does it say? It's double-sided. Oh yeah, and she made sure, she's like, it's double-sided, it's double-sided. So we've got that. And then on this side, she turned the earth into an explorer's map because I'm teaching explorers. And so that was really cute. It was really cute. So she made it with me in mind, you know? And then I got another explorer's one that I got from another student today. It's really good. These are so great. I love these. Okay, so this one has explorers on it. That's the front. And then the back are all the icons that I put on my explorers chant that we do. And so you'll see, these are all the icons that I drew on my chant. So it's pretty cool. I love it. And then I've got a whole bunch more from the same student. She's made a whole bunch of these. She made the one that said read on it and had the cute animals on the back. And then she's made this one, be with the trees. And then when you flip it over, it's got all these really cute little trees on it. I think that one's adorable. They're all adorable. These are all adorable. And just the thought that they're just so sweet. We are currently in fall. So this says fall on this side. And then if you look at this side, we've got a fall setting with the pumpkins and the wind blowing and all the leaves. Then comes winter. So we'll go with this one. And then the back, make sure your name's on it. Yeah, that's not cute with the snow and the snowmen. And then comes spring. On the back of this one, we get a lot of rain here in the spring, and you got bunny rabbits and all the flowers coming up and a very happy sun. And then finally summer. Look at that cool sun. He is really having a good time. The back is, again, our cool and happy sun and a lot of water because you get to play in the water during the summer. So those are my bookmarks, my many, many bookmarks. I will probably get more because they're just loving making them, and they're like, we don't have anybody else to give them to. I was like, well, I read books, give them to me. So I would like to get these laminated at some point because these are really good bookmarks and it'll be great memories for me. I have some other memories from my students from last year that I've kept, and it just, I don't know, it means a lot. I mean, obviously it means a lot, but it means a lot to remember students that I had in previous years, and just nice to have things that they made for me, like this that I got from one of my students last year. So like, these little things. Oh yeah, and all these little, I mean, I still remember the students that made all these things for me from last year. So, I mean, obviously I remember them, it was only last year. But like, you know, the years are gonna go on. There's gonna be many students in my life. So it's nice to have things like this. So now I'm making thank you cards. I've got some cute little like generic cards that are blank on the inside. I'm making thank you cards and putting a sticker in with them so that they have something a little special, shows them that I cared about what they gave to me. So this is fun. But yeah, that's my little bookmark haul. It's bookish, right? So it works out.
So my fourth roll on my Spookopoly-thon board was poll pick. And we put 3 books out there, and you guys picked Lawrence Wright's The End of October. Now, this is about a pandemic, and we just went through a pandemic. Surprisingly, this book was published in 2020. So it's curious to me if he went in 2020, published it, did he have it mostly written before we even got hit with the pandemic? This was so apt. This one starts in Indonesia, I think. There are some trigger warnings in this book, so you probably want to look it up. Once I picked this book up, and it's a chunker, but I sat down and read it and I couldn't put it down. It was so informative. It brought back my experience of the pandemic in 2020, 2021. The panic that they have in here is the same panic we had when the pandemic first hit. So a lot of this book was really just what we experienced. And like I said, again, if he wrote it before we actually got hit with the pandemic, that's fairly interesting, you know, because it pretty closely follows the panic the world was in. Politics stunk in here and made it really difficult to put together a vaccination. Government kept pushing you and then pulling you and pushing you and pulling you. And not just the US government, all the governments in the whole world that were affected by this pandemic were fighting. There were a couple of wars started through this thing. You sit there and think, we're all dying anyhow, so why do we want to take guns and start shooting each other? I mean, does that make any lick of sense? And then the government, you know, saying, yeah, we need a vaccination. Now we don't need a vaccination, or we've got a really good vaccination. We're not going to share it with you. It brought back a lot of feelings from when I experienced the pandemic we had. So I gave it 5 stars. I really liked it.
My 6th roll was highest rated, and we chose Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. Fantastic read. Surprise, surprise, 5 out of 5 stars. So, this book was so good. I could not put it down. The funny thing is my electricity went out while I was reading this, but that does not stop me. So I used my phone flashlight until it died. I then found a book light that was not fully charged, and I used it until it died. And then I had this little camp lantern, and I used that until it started dimming and the book got closer and closer and closer to my face until it died. Thank goodness, around 2 o'clock in the morning when the lights did come on was when that light went out, so I stood in the hallway and read from the hallway lights. That is how good this book is. Now, if I didn't normally give books 5 stars, this would be a 5-star. There are multiple books in this series. For once in my life, and I'm being completely honest right now, for once in my life, I would be glad to just have read this book. This is about heartache. This is about discovering who you really are by yourself, not focused on what other people think you are. Beautiful book. I love it. Read it in full light, preferably. But this is a great book. 5 out of 5 stars. Surprisingly.
My little pumpkin lantern plant. is starting to turn. Theirs are turning orange. Eventually they'll be orange. It's mushroom season.
Hi.
Okay, so I want to talk briefly about The Dawn Course, which is a novella in the Bone Season series. And this is a very short little taste that happens between book 3 and book 4 in the Bone Season series. And I gave it a 4.5 stars because I really enjoyed what it brought. It's a difficult read. It's going over a very rough situation our main character faces in book 3. And we're going into detail about some of the things that happened. It's really rough. She's trying to recover. We are also looking back at instances from book 1 or scenes from book 1 that she's reminiscing about. We never actually got to see those scenes play out. In this book, we're getting a chance to kind of see how things happened. And I really liked that. I liked how it tied book 3 and book 4 together. It helped set up book 4 so well. It was just a nice little taste, just a little bit of these characters that I love, and we got more of one of the other characters I love most. And well, he's actually the character that I love most. We got a lot of him. So I was really happy with this little novella, and I was happy to see the direction these books were going in, which then set the stage for book number 4, and I will talk about that book a little bit later. But yes, 4.5 stars for the 3.5 book in the Bone Season series, The Dawn Chorus. Really did enjoy it. Okay, so I want to talk about the next book, which I absolutely loved. 5-star read, The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. This one I listened to on audiobook, and I don't remember the name of the narrator, but I will put it up here. This was fantastic. The audiobook was perfect. I loved everything about this, and I hope to get a copy of this to keep for myself and for my future class if I have older kids, like 5th graders. I see this being marked as young adult middle grade, and I can see how for some kids it might not work, especially younger readers, but it did feel middle grade. It just felt like there were some themes that were a little darker. It did for me all the things from a Halloween / scary middle grade book, maybe slightly YA. For the month of October, all the things that you want from a book like that I wasn't getting from The Halloween Tree by Ray Bradbury. The things that I wanted from that book, I wasn't getting, and I got them with this book. I got characters that I absolutely fell in love with. Nobody Owens, he's called Bod in the book. Like, his name is Nobody Owens, but he goes by Bod. He is just such a wonderful character, and I loved him so much. He reminded me a lot of why I love being a teacher, just because I really enjoy kids, and seeing everything from his perspective, learning about his life and seeing how he came at things considering he was raised by ghosts in a graveyard. I just found him to be such a lovely, wonderful character. So at the very beginning of this, there is a family that gets murdered aside from the baby. And the baby wanders off. The person who is doing the murdering is trying to find the baby because he's supposed to eliminate the whole family. This baby, who is Nobody Owens eventually, he crawls into a graveyard that's near the house, and the ghosts find him and they protect him. And 2 of the ghosts decide to take the boy on as their son because they never actually had kids in their life. And there's also one other character. He's this person that lives in or around or keeps coming back to the graveyard. He's not alive, but he's not dead. He's like in the middle of both worlds. And he decides he will be Bod's guardian and help him to get the education that he needs and help to make sure he has enough food because the ghosts can't feed him. So he needs somebody who can get food for him and stuff. And We follow Bod's life growing up until he gets to a certain age. And there's little stories throughout this. I feel like each section is its own individual story that kind of shows this is what happens in Bod's life here, and then here, and then here. And you know, I didn't feel like it was distracting getting these, what felt like their own individual stories throughout this, because they all tied together and they really did all bring you to this fruition of a story that was the summation of Bod's experience being raised in a graveyard. And what happens in the end because of the things that happens to his parents, his family at the very beginning of this. And it's a coming of age story, as well as a found family sort of story, but it's all set in a graveyard and it's surrounding ghosts and these different creatures of the world that are not, you know, humans. And I loved it. It wasn't the fastest paced story. It didn't have the most solid plot all throughout, meaning like you have little stories that kind of piggyback ride on the general plot that goes throughout the whole story. So I highly recommend the audiobook. I highly recommend this book during the fall season, during Halloween time. This is a great one to listen to or to read with your family. There's some dark moments, just to warn you, but I didn't feel like there were any moments that were so dark or so scary that a child couldn't enjoy it. I just think that you should know your child before going into this, and if there are some things that might be a little more scary, yeah, read the book first. See if you think it's something they can handle.
Okay, so it's time to do a bit of a series update for my series tracker. The last time I updated this was July, so let's see where I'm at currently. I have the DNF, I count those as done, because I'm not gonna continue. 1, 2, 3, let's see what else I have finished. 4, 5, 6, 7, 7. I have 86, and I imagine more. 86, so technically 79. Yeah, 79 current series that I'm working through. That is pretty rough. Well, the last series I added was Crescent City, so let's see where I'm going to go from here. Okay, The Song Rising. Did I update that? I had Bone Season on here? I should have it on here. Oh, here it is. Bone Season. Song Rising is book 3. I haven't updated that. Nice. Overstory. Prime Mating Agency. It's right here. I've read number 6. And there's actually something I need to add to it. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've actually read number 7 also. And there is a number, I'm using the wrong colors. There is a number 8. And there is a 5.5. So that's updated all the way. Okay. The Poppy War. That's for The Strange Case of the Alchemist's Daughter. Let's see how many books are in that. I think it's just the 3 books. Let me double check. Yeah, just the 3 books. 1, 2, 3. And I have only read the 1. Okay, let me add another one, 89. This is the Pies Before Guys series. Mystery. And currently there's only 2 in this series. I finished the first one. I am like more than halfway done with the second one, so I'm actually gonna fill this one in a little early because there's no way I'm not gonna finish this book. Probably in the next, actually definitely in the next week. So I'm caught up with that one. So I can put a little caught up. Ooh, the Diviners! One, 2, 3, 4 books. And I have finished the first one, The Diviners. Next is the Hannah Swenson, 91. The Hannah Swenson series. The first one I read was Chocolate Chip Cookie Murder. And there are a lot in this one, so let's see. So there is a 1, a 1.5. I should have started up here. so there's a 1, a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8.5, 9, 9.5, 10, 11, 12, 13, 13.5, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. Jeez Louise, 27, 28, and 29. Whew, that's a long series, and I have read the first one. Woo, accomplishment. Oh dear. Okay. Ooh, the new kid. This is this one. I read book 2, so I'm getting close to being caught up with that one. That feels good. Thief of Sorrows is a series. I don't know how many are going to be in this series, or the name of the series, but I know this is a series. I know there will be 2 for sure. Oh, she said there were 8 books? Is this an 8-book series? I know for now there are 2. But I think it's, she said for sure, the author said it's like an 8-book series. Or 6, I can't remember. I don't know. The Dawn Chorus is a 3.5. So that's Bone Season. I've read the 3.5. The Graveyard Book. Failsafe, Ghost Squad. Okay, so that's it for now. I'm almost done with The Mask Falling, so I'm going to count it so I don't have to update it for a while, because I will have that one done by Friday. So, it's looking really good. Well, no, it's not. If I'm going to count caught up, then I am 8 books through my series. Oh, are there any of those ones that I'm caught up on? Maybe I should look and see about that. I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'm not going to worry about it right now. So, currently, if I have 8 that are done or caught up on, that I'm counting right now, then that means that I've got 84 series in the works right now. Quite embarrassing, not making a lot of progress on my series at the moment. I'm okay with having a lot of series open, but it would be nice if I could, you know, continue on with some of them before I forget too much of them.
Okay, so I'd like to review The Mask Falling by Samantha Shannon. This is the 4th main book, right? The 4th main book in the Bone Season series. And the only problem with this book is that the next one isn't coming out until 2025. And then the one after that, yeah, something happened with publishing for this whole series. There's somebody, the neighbors. Anyways, I don't know what they're doing. Their dogs have been trying to get under the fence and have been digging holes. I imagine they're in there trying to fill the holes. Because, yeah, we've been seeing some dog heads peeking out from under the fence. Anyways, I lost my train of thought. Okay, so the Bone Season, oh yeah, so apparently something happened with publishing, and because of the other books in the other series she's going through right now, the publisher has these books coming out at it's so frustrating because we want to read the next one, and since this was a 5-star read, my only 5-star of this series so far, I'm ready to continue. Let's go. Let's bring it on. I'm ready for more. This was my favorite yet. It just was the culmination of all the things that I have enjoyed about this series, because like I loved the first book, which not everybody loved, and granted it was Samantha Shannon's debut novel, so I can see why there would be issues with it, but I really liked a lot of the things that were within that story, within that plot line. And then we go to the second book, which was my least favorite because everything changed so drastically and I wanted more of what I loved from the first book. All along the way though, we're getting to know these characters, we're getting to understand the magic system, and it is a fairly complex magic system. We're getting to know the politics. There's a lot of politics in this series, and it can be a lot to take in, and there were definitely moments where I was not enjoying this series as much as I wanted to, especially because this was the bookStara read-along series for 2023. And then in this book, everything came together in my opinion. Granted, there are still a lot of things we don't know. There are still a lot of things that Samantha Shannon maybe even didn't know herself when she was writing this, which was one of the issues. But I loved the action in this one. I loved the characters, the new group of characters we got to know. I really loved the setting of Paris Scion. I just thought there was so much about this that fit what I wanted from the story. And there were definitely moments in this that I was so angry at the direction that Samantha Shannon went, because of my loyalties to certain characters, and I was like, what the heck is going on? I was so frustrated and angry, and yet that didn't take away from my enjoyment of the book. That actually added to my enjoyment. There was such huge twists and turns in this, and just when you think the story's just going along and it has these amazing twists and turns, she throws something at you so big that you're like, what the heck just happened there? And I loved it. I loved all that. I was so excited reading this whole book. I had a hard time putting this one down. I can't say the same was true for the other ones. There were definitely moments when the other ones dragged a little bit more for me. I felt like the pacing on this one was perfect. I felt like the twists and turns were perfect. There just was so much about this that I loved. And I think it really was the culmination of my experience with these characters, my experience with this world. Things just came together in a way that I enjoyed so much about this book. And yeah, 5 stars. Absolutely love it. Can't wait to read the next one, even though it's way far away. Luckily, I have a lot of patience. And maybe in 2025, I'll reread this one because I loved it so much so that I can read the next one. Oh, so I forgot. Our live show discussion was really close to Halloween, and we were saying something like, oh, maybe we should dress up like some of the characters from the book. And what I ended up doing on the day that we had our live show discussion, I ran home from work and I very quickly made myself a mask. And in this book, Paige, our main character, is called the Black Moth. And I mean, it's kind of spoilery, but you know, if you've never read the series, you won't know anything about what that means. And so let me show you my Black Moth mask, which I patterned off of the descriptions in the book. So here's my mask, and basically, it's hard to talk. So she had bright red lips, the moth on it, and it was very intricate and detailed. It has all these splotches on it because I was trying to go with the crackled effect that paint has, because apparently it was supposed to have this crackly look, but I was in like last minute trying to figure out, how do I make this paint look like it's crackled? It looks more marbled, but I thought it turned out okay, and I kind of tried to get the crackle look. Going forward, I would probably just use like a fine tip black pen and kind of make it look crackled. But I was in a rush and I was trying to get it done. Okay, so working on my year in Aldea. Where's my board? I got to this point in September. I went on a date, and then I got to choose between Stargaze and Adventure Together. And so Stargaze was a book that has stars on the cover. Adventure Together is a book with a map, and I am almost done with The Mask Falling, so I'm going to count this, and I'm going to do it now, just so that I can make sure this gets into my video.
So I'm adventuring together. But yeah, I'll show you The Mask Falling. Here's my copy, and it has 2 maps in it, actually. So here's one map.
Ile de la Citadelle. And then the other map is Hotel Garoche. Hotel Garoche. Yeah. So we've got 2 maps in this one, so that definitely counts. I'm doing a lot of adventuring together. And yeah, I'm not quite done, but I'm ticking it off here because there's no way I'm not going to finish this, and I have to have it done by Friday. So I'll definitely get this done. Just wanted to update this while I had the time. Oh yeah, and I'm going to put, for this, it's The Mask Falling. So that means that in November, I have to read a book at risk of an unhaul. Interesting. It's a rescue quest. Oh, that's cute. So I need to make sure I read a book. Oh, I guess that means I'm going to be having an owlcat, because this is the direction I went in. I didn't even pay attention to these. I was just like, whatever I get, I get. So I'm going to have an owlcat. I don't know what that means, but it sounds fun. And in December, it's an owl or a cat on a cover. So for my December TBR, I don't have as much choice with that, but I've got to make sure that something I end up reading that month has an owl or a cat on the cover. And then I'll get an owlcat. How cool.
So my third
Wait
roll.
till my finger is out of there.
So my third roll, I landed on Crows and Ravens. That was great because I had already read The Six of Crows, the book 1, and I needed to read book 2, which is Crooked Kingdom. Big old crow on the cover, so this is perfect for row 3. This is the second book in a duology. It has all the same characters it had in the first book. These are young people. I don't know their ages. They seem like 16 to 20 or something, 21 maybe. They're not perfect little angels. Some of them are thieves, some of them do bad things, but they get together as a group. In the first book, they have a huge adventure. They have to get together in the second book to kind of complete everything. And so we've got all 6 of them working in the second book with a lot of adventure. And I don't want to go too much into it because it is a duology. I gave the book 4 stars. I think I gave the first one 4 stars also. It was a great adventure. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed reading it. I liked the characters. You found out more about them in the second book, so you really get a lot of their background. So it felt like a lot of this book was the background of all 6, not children, they're teenagers, young adults. It wasn't quite a 5-star read because it did spend a lot of time going over the characters' backgrounds, and sometimes I found that a little slow. I love the action and the adventure that they get into, but backstory sometimes runs a little slow, and it did here a little bit. Not bad, but still a strong 4.
Okay, so I need to give a review for Craven Manor by Darcy Coates. This is an audiobook that I picked up. I'll list the narrator that read this audiobook here. I did not like this at all. I gave it a 2.5 stars. It was really disappointing because I was very excited about Darcy Coates. Darcy Coates is one of those authors where everybody has been saying really good things about her horror, and I just heard amazing comments, and that it's very accessible horror. And I can see that it's very accessible because that was part of my problem. I felt like the writing was so simplistic that I didn't really get, I mean, there was some atmospheric vibes to it. It definitely goes heavy into the supernatural. And this book is about this young man who has been struggling to make his way in life. And he gets an invitation to come work for Craven Manor as the groundskeeper. But there are these secrets and things. There's something off in the woods making a lot of noise. And I'm like, what is it? Sasquatch? Could be. So I'm just hoping it's not anything that's going to eat Cece. So I'm like trying to keep an eye on what that is. Anyways, he comes to work for this place and he's very desperate for a home to live in. He's very desperate for work. So he looks past a lot of the red flags, like don't leave the groundskeeper house between midnight and sunrise. If someone's knocking on your door between those hours, don't answer it. Don't ever go up into the tower of Craven Manor. It unnerves him quite a bit, but he's desperate enough for work. He's desperate enough for a place to live that he overlooks these things and then has a bit of an adventure figuring out what the deal is, what's going on with Craven Manor in the process. And I will say, if you're looking for a haunted story, a book about a haunted house, and a lot of times when it comes to horror stories or thrillers and there is a haunted house involved, it doesn't delve as much into the supernatural as you'd like it to. There ends up being some realistic response or realistic reason, and the supernatural doesn't ever actually come to be. That is not true for this. You will get all the supernatural elements that you want from this book. And I think that's important to point out because that is a bit of a bummer when you're looking for a haunted house story. My issue was in the writing, and the plot was okay. I thought that it was a bit obvious a lot throughout. There weren't any twists and turns and things that happened that surprised me. I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's what I expected. The writing wasn't interesting enough. And what I really didn't like was the character development. I did not like the character. He was someone who, at first you're like, he is a likable person. And I can see him being likable. I can see people liking him. But I was so irritated with him so often because he was so naive and so not adult-like. Like, there was nothing about him that felt very adult-like, that I just got really frustrated because I'm like, it never seemed realistic in the characters that were portrayed. I mean, I was pulled in at the beginning, and listening to this as an audiobook, there's not a lot of pressure because I just listen to audiobooks in the car when I'm driving to and from work. And I was able to stick with this one. There are definitely audiobooks that I put on and I go, oh no, that is a book for reading physically. That is not a book for audio. And I just turn it off right away, like I soft DNF it. This one I didn't have to soft DNF. I was able to keep up with it the whole way through. But I really started losing interest more and more as the story went along. And I just wasn't impressed with the writing or the character development or, in the end, the plot. Because it was very predictable. And I don't know. I would like to try Darcy Coates again because I always am willing to give an author a second chance and maybe go pick up one of the books that she's written that is like the most high-rated book and see if it's possible her writing style is just not for me. And so I'm going to give this one 2.5 stars. I was really bummed because I was looking forward to reading from this author so much. I've been enjoying horror lately and I was hoping for a bit more. And I didn't quite get it. So I think that this is going to be for a lot of people, and a lot of people did like this, and a lot of people do love Darcy Coates. If you like stories that have the supernatural element and it really does become the supernatural element, I think you'll enjoy this one, and I think you should give it a chance. I think it just wasn't for me.
Oh, no. You weren't in the way. Come closer.
Come on closer, baby.
My 7th roll, because I had the most rolls than anyone else in this family. My 7th roll was a book that had green on the cover, and I'm just so glad that I had bought this the day before. Or maybe it was the day of the rolling, because this is exactly what I wanted to read. This is Wolfsong by TJ Klune, and if you didn't hear me the first time around when we discussed our books, TJ Klune is amazing. I'm so happy to have read yet another one of his books. And then my auntie and my cousin bought me the next one in the series, which I will be reading in this month of November. November. So, this book is fantastic. I don't know how well I explained it in the beginning because I'm not very good at that, but read it. Read this book. Also, possibly have the others ready because I couldn't put it down. I love this book so much. I laughed, I cried. And then cried, and then I got really, really angry. I cursed, which I never do. You should read this book. Read this book. It is heartwarming. It is heartfelt. You will be angry. You will be happy. You will be surprised. You will be surprised. This is such a good book. Surprise, surprise, 5 out of 5 stars. Go TJ Klune, you did it again. All right, thank you.
Okay, so I need to update my bingo board, and I'm going to include Survive the Night because I finished it on October 2nd, and I think that counts. Okay, so let's see what I can put on here. What can I make work? I'm going to take off all these for now. So Survive the Night definitely had black and orange on the cover, so that would work for this. It also had murder. It had a serial killer. This one or this one? Which one? I think I'll have more books that have murder on them. So I'm going to go with black or orange cover for Survive the Night by Riley Sager. I don't know how I want to write this on here, but Survive the Night. So I'll cross that out. So that one works. Okay. And then of course my free space also I don't have to read a book for that. It's a free space. The Dawn Chorus actually works, I would call zombies. And we don't have those necessarily in the Dawn Chorus, but I'm currently reading The Mask Falling, and they're in that. They would also kind of be considered ancient evil. Rephites are like, she compares them to gods all the time, and I would kind of, and they live forever. I would kind of consider those ancient evil. And then of course the I think I would consider those zombies. So this actually is a better place for me to go for The Mask Falling, which I'm not done with, but I will have it done by Friday. So that will definitely be done before the end of the month. And I just want to update everything right now. I can make this one work for most things. I can argue this for a lot of books. So maybe I'll go here. And I'm going to call zombies, because I think that works. And this is The Mask Falling. And you can argue with me, and I will win. So okay, then we got The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. Very, very clearly Graveyard. Also works for Ancient Evil, though, because we did have a whole story in there with Ancient Evil. Works for murder, works for witches, works for Halloween theme, works for so many of these, actually. Whoa. Oh, I'm very excited about this one. So let's go with the next one. Failsafe only works for dystopian post-apocalyptic. Yeah, it only works for that. Failsafe is apocalyptic, and I put post-apocalyptic. I think apocalyptic is good for this. I'm totally okay with that. It's my game. So I'm going to count Failsafe for this, because it is a thrilling, frightening, and apocalyptic book. So Failsafe, totally counting that one. And then the Ghost Squad is all about graveyards, so many graveyards, ghost story. It works for both of these. So what am I more likely to get done? And what am I going to count the Graveyard Book for? I could count it for this one or this one. I'm not going to read anything with cryptids in it, though. Okay, I figured it out. I'm going to use the Dawn Chorus for Spooky Book with Voice of Reason character, because this is one that deals with a lot of torture. One of our characters is really working hard to show our other character that all the things that are happening in their mind because they've survived this torture are no longer true. And so they're the voice of reason. So I think that that works actually really well for the Dawn Chorus. And that's a hard one to fulfill because I want to save these two. So I'm going to put that. The Dawn Chorus. I think that works really well. And it was spooky because there was a lot of really intense scenes in that one. So then I'm going to go with, it doesn't matter which, I'm going to go with, I'll do Ghost Story as the Ghost Squad. That doesn't look great, but I did it. And the Graveyard Book, pretty on the nose with that one. The Ghost Squad and Graveyard Book. And then I just need to read 1922. Oh, and I got Murder done already, actually. No, it's not done, but it's almost done. Okay, I'm currently reading A Good Day to Pie, which is the second book in the Pies Before Guys mystery series, and there is always murder in this one. And so I'm going to count that because I will be finished with it before the end of the month. I'll be finished it within the week. So A Good Day to Pie. And there already has been a couple of murders. Well, we think they're murders, but I'm pretty sure at least one of them is. A Good Day to Pie. So I have one bingo here, and if I can read that 1922 book by Stephen King, I will have my second bingo. And I don't think by the end of the month I will be able to get any others done. So 2 bingos is great though. And that means that I'll have read 1, 2, if I can read this, 3, I'm hoping for 4 of my 6 TBR books, my game TBR books. I'd like to read all of them, but there's just not enough time in the month. Okay. Hey, I feel good about my bingo board. Look at that. Just need to read this little short story. And it's a short story, so it shouldn't be too difficult. And then I'll have had 2 bingos. Woohoo!
want to talk about 1922 by Stephen King. This is a short story horror about this man named Wilfred and his confession about killing his wife, roping his son into helping him kill his wife. We know this from the very beginning, so that's not really spoilery, but it's basically his descent into fear and guilt as he's confessing to what he did. He's basically written a letter of his full confession, and that's what we're reading as we read the story. So this was definitely horrific. There were a lot of really gruesome scenes in this, and Wilfred and his wife were having a really big argument about land. She wants to sell all their property off, including her inherited 100 acres and Wilfred's 80 acres that he has inherited or bought. She wants to sell it all off so they can go live in the city. And Wilfred wants to continue being someone who lives in the country because that's what he likes. He has no desire to go live in the city. Their arguments get so heated and it affects their relationship so much that he decides he's got to do away with her. The gruesome level of this is pretty high. I don't think that this was scary at any point. There weren't a lot of points where I was like, ooh, hide under the blankets, I'm scared. It was more the level of grotesqueness from the detailed descriptions. And there is a lot about rats in this story. So if you have a problem, I know my cousin has a problem with rats. If you have a problem with rats, this might not be the one for you because the rats play a very big role in this. I gave this one 3.75 stars because I enjoyed it a lot. And I enjoy Stephen King's writing style. One of the things that took me out of it a little bit at times was, it was very, very detailed, which is also Stephen King, but a little strange for a short story. You kind of want them to get to it a little bit quicker when it comes to a book that is this short. But one of the things that took me out of it is Wilfred, the main character, wasn't completely believable to me. I don't necessarily believe that the voice that I'm hearing from this character is what I would expect from a person called Wilfred that lives in this environment that, I don't know, there were aspects of this that just didn't seem completely realistic, and I could be wrong, but it just didn't quite feel like the voice I would expect from Wilfred. And so there were times when I'm like, would he really have said that? Or would that be what he's thinking? And I don't know. It's Stephen King's character, so he is whatever Stephen King has made of him. It just seemed a little, I don't know, it felt a little unrealistic to me. Also, despite it being a short story, there were moments of this that dragged a little. And that can be true for some of Stephen King's writing because of the level of detail he goes into. And I know I was complaining for Craven Manor that there wasn't enough detail. Sometimes that description, that level of description, can slow the pace of the story down. And there are times and there are books where I don't mind it because it works really well within the story. And that is true for a lot of Stephen King novels for me. But in this case, the pacing felt a little too slow. And for a short story, you want the pace to feel spot on because you're not going to get very much story. And yet, it was fun to read this because it was fun to understand where some pop culture references have come up based on Wilfred and the rats and stuff like that. And so I'm glad I got a chance to read it. I think I could see myself reading this again and maybe even enjoying it a little bit more on a reread. And I would like to watch a film adaptation, but I could see that would be even more grotesque and nasty because imagining it in your mind, reading a story, is a lot different than what cinematography can do.
All right, now I want to review A Good Day to Pie by Misha Popp, and this is the second in the Pies Before Guys mystery series, which I consider a cozy mystery series. There is actual murder in it, and it has a bit of social commentary, which I think maybe makes people uncomfortable. I think it's fantastic. I also get a very cozy vibe when I read this series. So I'm gonna call it a cozy mystery series. I listened to the audiobook on this one. It was narrated by Tanya Eby. Both of these books were narrated by the same person. I just really liked their narration style. I thought they did an amazing job, and I really liked the audiobooks. The first book I ended up giving 5 stars because I really enjoyed it so much. I liked everything about it. Like, for a cozy mystery, this is what I wanted from it. The second one, as much as I wanted to love it as much as I loved the first one, and as much as I thought I was going to at the beginning of this, I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I still really, really enjoyed this, but it got lost in a couple of places along the way. It was very fun though, because it had a huge Great British Baking Show element to it, because our main character Daisy ends up joining this competition, this It's not just pies, it's just a dessert competition, just like the Great British Baking Show. And it was great because that is one of my favorite shows. So I've got this mystery series that I have been enjoying. I have this show that I absolutely love. The combination should be perfection because there's a competition element to this as well. And it was really good. It was really fun. It just wasn't as on point as the first one was. I felt like there was a more meandering happening. So something about the pacing on this one ended up being off. So towards the center, I was easier to distract, let's put it that way. And I didn't feel that way at all for the first book. The first book just felt like so much fun. So this series is about this woman named Daisy who has these magical abilities to, she can put a little bit of magic in her pies. And one way she can put magic into her pies is to cause people to be murdered. And bad people. So she's not like murdering people willy-nilly. She is murdering people willy-nilly, but she creates these pies for people who, for whatever reason, deserve to die. Now, it's a matter of opinion whether they actually deserve to die or not. And there isn't a conversation in this series about this being a bad thing. Like, I mean, she knows that murder is not a good thing. It's tiptoed around, and there are justifications made within the series as to how to prevent these murders in a sense. I can't go into more details without spoiling things. However, it is kind of funny, and that is one thing that people are like, you know, murder is murder. This is not a good thing, no matter what. So maybe that's another reason why people don't want to consider it cozy mystery series. I think it's cozy. I think it's fun. I really enjoyed a lot about it. Is it a little morally gray? Yeah, but is it a fictional story that I have fun reading? Absolutely. And if you like cozy mysteries or mysteries that have a little bit of social commentary, think Jamila Green Ruins Everything, I think you'll enjoy this one because I had a lot of fun with it and the audiobook is fantastic. So 4 stars for this one. It didn't quite hit my 5-star that I wanted. However, I do highly recommend this series and I think you'll have fun. Just go into it with an open mind for what a cozy mystery means, and I think you'll enjoy it. Okay, so at the end of the month, I can count 1922 for the Stephen King, and I've got 2 bingos, so one across, or diagonal rather, and then one across the center. And then, even though this isn't going to get me another bingo, I can count the body horror because I read Comfort Me with Apples. And that definitely had body horror elements in it. So that's what my October reading looked like. I think I did pretty good, and I'm so excited that I got 2 bingos. All right, so I know that this is a long video, but that was my October. It was a very fun October. I got a lot of reading done, actually. October was a pretty good reading month for me. I didn't quite get all the books that I had planned on doing for the readathon completed. I got 4 out of 6, and that's pretty good for someone who is in the middle of teaching and tired all the time, and I was trying to do a lot of Halloween type stuff. I hope you enjoyed seeing some of the footage of the different things that we got into over this holiday season, and it was just a blast. So let me know in the comment section down below of all the books that were reviewed in this video from me, from my mom, from Jordan. Have you read any of these? I would love to hear your thoughts. I'd love to hear if your reviews are on par with ours or if they're completely different. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you can see what happens in November. I am hoping to get a vlog out soon. We'll see how that works out. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you later. Bye.